All right. Now, our next topic is a nice, juicy topic. I think everybody will find this one funny, but also very educational. And it is, should prostitution be legal? And I know what everyone's saying, oh, these guys just want to talk about prostitution. Well, yes, because one, it's something that should be talked about. And two, it's more interesting than people try to give it credit for. And I just want to give a couple of facts and just some background to prostitution to kind of premise this whole topic. All right. So there's up to 40 million prostitute workers at work at any given time in the world. 22 countries have legalized prostitution, including Switzerland, Australia, Colombia, Mexico, the Netherlands, Germany, Australia, Greece, just to name a few. Studies have revealed that up to 1 in 10 men in the world have purchased a prostitute at some time. Now, when you think about 1 in 10 men purchasing a prostitute, that's a lot of men. That's a lot of men in the world. So this is not something that just, only the most perverse of the perverse do. No, a lot of average Joes do this all the time. Apparently, for 1 in 10
people in the planet. So 1 out of 10 of that,
that's a lot. That's a lot. So the sex industry is very huge in Japan and Thailand. 80,000 citizens are arrested in the United States for soliciting sex. So that's 80,000 people who are being incarcerated in this country for soliciting sex, throughout the year for various reasons with various crimes. And one, we have the largest incarceration rate in the world, so adding to that in any extent is obviously a problem. Yeah. And there's also a large murder rate in prostitution, and this is illegal prostitution. And that's 204 out of every 100,000 prostitutes could be murdered or killed in some sense. They're in danger. And men between the ages of 35 to 44 are the most common demographic to having sex. And it's a $58 billion industry. But unfortunately, due to it being illegal in so many places, there's 2.5 million victims of sex trafficking. And this is people when they're taken young, taken middle, old, and just forced to work against their better judgment, forced to work against their judgment whatsoever for someone else's profit, and not in the best circumstances. But I want to say something based on that human trafficking that hits very hard to home here in America. We think this is only overseas. This only happens in Europe and in Asian countries. No, this is very prevalent here in America, especially with how porous our borders are. You can get people over here with various visas, various passports, and you won't even know it. And this goes to the fact that over 10,000 prostitutes, many of whom were trafficked illegally, trafficking victims, were found at the 2010 Miami Super Bowl. And this has been something that's going on for a long time. Almost every Super Bowl, tens of thousands of prostitutes and people in the sex trafficking industry are brought to those areas to act in those crimes because they make so much money because so many people are at the event. And at the Dallas Super Bowl in 2011, 133 people were arrested for having sex with a minor. And again, this is because this is all illegal, and these people are doing this behind the books, and no one really gets or hears any say-so from it. Last fact, and this is something I found very interesting, and something that I didn't know, I don't think a lot of people knew, is that Rhode Island actually had prostitution legal for a stretch of time. Between 2003 and 2009, Rhode Island actually had prostitution legal due to kind of a mix-up with a particular law. There was a loophole that made sex indoors legal for money, for trade. And while they were doing this, over the 7-year period, over until it was overturned and sex was made illegal in 2009, there was a decrease in rapes as well as a decrease in gonorrhea. Well, STDs, but gonorrhea is the one that they focused on more specifically. They said there was a 31% decrease in rapes in Rhode Island, which means there's 824 fewer victims of rape due to this 7-year period. That means 824 women or men or children who were not touched, whose lives were not greatly harmed from sexual assault due to this, as well as 2,000 less cases of gonorrhea in the state, which I would guess that number would continue to multiply throughout the years. That's a 7-year period. So you got to think, actually, that's probably around 4,000 to 5,000 people would have gonorrhea, because a lot of those would go untreated, then other people would catch it. But just for particular numbers, in a 7-year period, 824 less people were raped and 2,000 less people had gonorrhea. So now that we know these facts, and you can see that there's some basis for why 21 countries made prostitution legal, I'm going to turn this over to Jaysin real quick and ask Jaysin to explain to us fully. Should prostitution be legal? And if it should not be legal, why should it not? And if it should, why should it be legal?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the two places you mentioned, Dallas and Miami. Those are some of the places where it's easiest to get people into this country in.
I would agree. Yeah.
Miami has been known as, that's where I can't remember his name. It's like Elian Gonzalez or something like that from when I was young. He was like the little kid who made it to America. I forget where he came from, but it was a huge story back in like the 90s. But so that kind of goes into that. So it'd be interesting to see it's, let's say, somewhere like, I don't know, Denver.
I would say it would probably be tougher, but it doesn't change the fact that it is still a large area for sex trafficking. Whether it's 10,000, whether it's 3,000, which would probably be the case in Denver, it does not change the fact that there's a lot of sex trafficking and prostitution during these events, regardless. So, besides it's probably a lot easier there. That's why the numbers are so large. Yeah. That's why they chose those two particular areas. But
so also Australia, I can't speak for the rest of the countries, but I know how Australia's prostitution works, and that's they have places where you go to. It's like a brothel in essence. You go there and you choose which one you want to have sex with, and you hire that person, and then you have sex with them.
Oh, and I did want to state really quickly that in all these states, this isn't just like free willy-nilly prostitution. Like, no, this is regulated by the government. First off, you have to get a permit to be a prostitute from the government. You must be tested for STDs and various other diseases every single month, and you cannot have sex until those results come back for that month. So it's very important for you to get these things done in a very timely and prompt manner. These things are very highly regulated. They are in safe conditions, and they must have like security guards, and it must be consensual, and there are set standards, set rates, and all these other kinds of things. So again, this isn't just free willy-nilly, you should be able to walk up on a street corner and get a prostitute. No, you should be able to go to a facility that is safe, that is certified. Same way you trust a fast food place to, pass their critiques and give you good food. The same way, maybe not fast food, I say a restaurant to give you good food that's not tainted is the same way that you would hold these other brothels accountable for their women, their inventory to keep you safe.
I think Australia is kind of a poster boy for America in a lot of ways, especially with their gun laws, but then also in this case the prostitution. Definitely should in our country because it's already happening anyway. And I think in doing so we hurt so many people, like the old man who hired a prostitute. He's an old guy, hired a prostitute, and then they booked him for it. And it's an old dude. I forget how old he was. He was definitely up there in age though. And let's be real.
I do remember the story that you're talking. He was like 80 something. He was up there.
Yeah, he was definitely an older dude.
And I was just astonished that dude, if he can still have sex, why are you messing with this man?
Well, yeah,
that's like a blessing at his age. Why are you messing with this poor man? Yeah, and I'm pretty sure his wife had been dead or something for a while as well, and but showing you how an innocent man has become a victim due to something that's natural that he couldn't get from other people.
Exactly. And let's be real, he's gonna die soon anyway. Let him get his rocks off. Let him have a little fun. And I think for that reason, we should definitely consider and definitely look into how we could make prostitution work in this country.
Now, do you think there's actual merit to the fact that 824 fewer rapes and 2,000 less cases of gonorrhea? Do you think that would go across the board, state to state? You would see those kinds of changes?
So now I'm going to have to get into a psychological aspect of it. I absolutely do see the merits of that across the board. I think that would not only happen there, but it would happen in every state. Because now, all right, so for the male psyche, and I'm only going to speak on males here, for the male psyche, if they can't get sex, in any way, if they can't convince someone to have sex with them consensually through flirting or whatever, they, after a certain while of hearing no, it eventually boils up and bubbles up and then rape happens. Or you just have the assholes who just rape for
Rape safe,
yeah. So for that purpose, those men who don't get it, no matter how much they try, then they would have this source, this outlet that they could go to and be like, okay, I'm gonna go here, I pay X amount of dollars, and I finally get to have sex. So in that essence, it would stop rape, a lot of rape, not all rape, but a lot of rape across the board in every state. So I think it definitely does have its merits. I think with the STD one, that one's a bit confusing for me. I can see how it's decreased some numbers, but at the same time, I don't really see it.
Dude, what are you talking about? Prostitutes can be nasty, man.
Prostitutes can be nasty.
And then a lot of people who have an STD would go to a prostitute because they know, of course, I can still have sex with an STD and never speak to this person ever again.
But the fact is, even without prostitutes, STDs would still be a high number in this country.
That just goes to education and safe sex.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so, but that's why it's
confusing.
Yeah, because I like to understand the
science test for that.
Yeah, the science behind that. Because if you're just going in
the fact that it's increased and you're going to attribute it to it, you can't necessarily say that.
Yeah,
but if it came that they found that it was statistically significant that it led to the prostitution led to that decrease, do you think that would be backed up? Would you say, okay, that is a good reason to more justify?
It's a good reason. I think, again, if we look at the science of it, maybe it would be on shaky ground, but just the fact that it did happen in Rhode Island, right? That should be enough to maybe warrant a
investigation, at least.
An investigation
of hearing or some kind of trial or something to essentially kind of look into it. I see where you're coming from there for sure. That to me, I think it just shows that prostitution in general needs to be reassessed in this country. I think there's many different laws that are
the oldest profession.
It's said to be the oldest profession. I think that's always funny. If it's the oldest profession, then what did they pay him with? You know what I mean? So that means that technically the fisher was the first one. But anyways, but I do think on a serious note that prostitution, if it was legal in this country, it would not only save countless lives, it would lower the amount of rapes in this country quite dramatically, especially with as much as we sexualize women and we sexualize things in the media. Like having an outlet for men after being so sexually charged would be good. And not only men, for women as well, because don't think that prostitution is just for men. There will be a lot of women who will go to prostitutes as well. And there's a lot of women out there who do things they try to act like they don't do. Wink, wink, ladies. We know. Y'all can do some ridiculous stuff. So it's all good. It's all in for fun. But, prostitution would bring a lot of tax revenue as well, which we're constantly talking about bringing new tax revenue into this country. That is millions, if not billions of dollars of tax revenue we would get in this country.
I think another point is, and you kind of hit on it, it would help out the Republicans in a lot of ways because as of late, they're so against abortion. Well, not as of late against abortion, but so that most of their candidates now are kind of against the whole what am I trying to say here? The rape and incest.
Oh, rape and incest is considered. Yeah, you should still have a baby.
Some of them are against that, and if they institute prostitution, you reduce the amount of rape, and then you reduce the amount of.
Oh, it makes their claims a bit more valid. I see what you're trying to say, because there's a lower amount of people who are having those claims. Thus, it's such a small statistic you can't really count it.
Absolutely.
And the overarching theme of everything. Oh,
and then
man,
women. With prostitution, I mean, we have escort sites now, and we have escorts, and technically it's not really, if those people get caught, then they could get in a lot of trouble, but they have ones for men, they have ones for gay people, they have ones for women. I mean, we all look into
But I think it's interesting, I don't know why in this country we keep trying to demonize something that we can't get rid of. We can get rid of crack cocaine. We can get rid of heroin. We can get rid of meth for the most part. You know, like that's why my freaking what's that stuff? My Claritin don't work like it used to because they took the good drug out of it that made it work.
Well, I mean, Coca-Cola used to have coke in it.
Coke in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's certain things in this society we can get rid of. Sex is not one of them. Prostitution is not one of them. It has been around since it's been around since there's been human beings. That's not going to change. So why don't we, instead of trying to demonize these people, we give them a proper means of doing this, which is going to make everything safer, better, and give us more funding to do more things in this country. Why not say that all the money that comes to prostitution must go to education? So that all of these tax dollars, I know, right? It's funny to make prostitution and we have education, but it'll be the largest boon to the education budget we've had in this country in decades. Because for some reason we continue to defund that, which leads to more rape, which leads to more babies, you know, outside of wedlock and things like that. So while we're degrading the things that would maybe prevent prostitution because we become so intelligent that we're beyond prostitution, but we're not going there. So prostitution is still very prevalent in today's society. Stop running away from it and address the situation. Because even in Richmond, Kentucky, my old, you know, at EKU, there was a place, a massage parlor, that had been busted previously for having sex workers. They shut it down, came back a few months later, and they continued to have sex workers until it was busted again for the second time. And then there was another place on the other side of town that was all lock and key, and you couldn't get into the sex part or to the massage parlor unless like you came in through like 3 doors and all this other kind of stuff, you know. So I know the place because I delivered pizza there one time. I didn't even know it was there.
Sure he did. He
I didn't know it was
pizza.
there. The other two places was a running joke on campus though. It was like everyone knows these places exist. Even when it was rated, it was like, oh, we expected that to happen. The other place, they were just doing such a good job, they hadn't got caught yet. But prostitution is everywhere.
Yeah.
Instead of demonizing it, legalize it. Stop having. If prostitution is legal, why would you go to an illegal prostitute unless you're doing some really raunchy, disgusting things? That's what you focus on. Yeah. Stop focusing on the petty prostitutes on the street corner and start focusing on the child molesters. Start focusing on the people who are actually abducting people and using them in the sex trade. When you legalize it, that makes the illegal things so much more prevalent and so much easier to sift out. All these other people are certified. I don't have to worry about them anymore. They got their licenses. I don't have to look at them. Why is this chick still in the corner when she could be somewhere else? Oh, she's probably doing something beyond what she should be doing, something that is abundantly illegal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why are these people going to this place? Oh, because they're bringing children here. You know, these things become easier to sift out when you don't have so much hay in that haystack.
True, and we could also save a lot of lives.
Save a lot of lives. If one less life will be ruined, if one less woman will be raped, I think that's a reason to really look into this and say prostitution should be
rape, but
legal.
When you have illegal prostitution, I mean, we all know you got the pimps and you got the hoes. We remove the pimps.
Yeah.
It
and you actually empower the women in this situation. They become the keys to the kingdom. They own their own destiny. They set their own rates. They live in a very clean environment. They do and do not do what they choose.